Hello everyone and welcome back to our virtual Mishnah Berurah here. We are holding Mishnah Berurah Chelek Gimel, and in Miyirtz Hashem today we will be learning Daf Samach Ches Amud Aleph. We are continuing to learn Hilchos Shabbos. We pick up today on the very bottom line of the Shulchan Aruch on Samach Zayin Amud Beis, in middle of the words of the Ramah. It's actually the last two words of the Ramah on Daf Samach Zayin Amud Beis. Okay, our learning today should be as chus for Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael Hanasuna Batzaru Bashivya Ha'imdim Ben Bayom Ubein Bayabasha Hamakim Yerachem Aleihem V'Yotzia Mitzar L'Rvacha Me'afelu L'Oira Mishubed L'Geula Hashta Bagolo V'Zman Kariv V'Nemar Amen. Our learning should be as chus Refuah Shalema for Moshe Meir ben Esther Fradel, for Tzvi ben Leah Miriam, for Daniel ben Naomi, and it should be as chus for Yisrael ben Rachel Yernesim ben Michal Yoel ben Michal. The Rebbeinu Shalom should watch over them together with all of our other brothers and sisters who find themselves in harm's way. B'chol Makayim Shehem. So, over here in Reish Sadik Aleph Sif Beis, the Ramah had brought down two different opinions as to when is the best time, when is the preferred time to eat Shalosh Seudas, or Seudas Shlishis, really, colloquially known as Shaloshudas, which doesn't mean anything. Shaloshudas, it's some kind of contraction, but be that as it may, that's what everybody seems to say. So the Ramah first said that there are those that say you're not allowed to drink water between Mincha and Ma'ariv, Shabbos evening. Why not? So the Mishnah Berurah told us because there is a medrash that says that somehow, as we get closer to Masei Shabbos, the neshamas that unfortunately are spending time in Gehenim, so we know that they get a reprieve for Shabbos. And as we approach the end of Shabbos, those neshamas are preparing to go back into Gehenim. So between Mincha and Ma'ariv, when we're getting to that end of the Shabbos day, when they have to go back into Gehenim, for some reason it's inappropriate to drink water. Why exactly is something that's way beyond our pay grade, but for whatever reason it's inappropriate to drink water at that time. Since you can't drink water between Mincha and Ma'ariv, so this Yesh Omrim says that you should not eat Shaloshudas between Mincha and Ma'ariv, because when you eat Shaloshudas, you might come to drink water. So therefore, when should you eat Shaloshudas according to this opinion? You should eat Shaloshudas before Mincha. But then we have the second opinion, the second Yesh Omrim in the Ramah, that says no, it's better to daven Mincha first, and then to go eat Shaloshudas between Mincha and Ma'ariv. Why? Because the truth is that to go and eat a Sudas Kva before you daven Mincha is somewhat problematic. Once the Zman of Mincha comes, once the Chiyuv of Mincha comes, really you're not supposed to eat a Sudas Kva before you daven Mincha, so how are you going to eat Shaloshudas before Mincha? So this opinion says that no, better you should go ahead and you eat Shaloshudas after Mincha. And then the Ramah said, V'chein noi hagin l'chadchilo b'chol medinos elu. The Ramah said that is the meaning in our regions, that we do eat Shaloshudas after Mincha. We eat it between Mincha and Ma'ariv. Now, the last two words on the page here on Samach Zayin Amud Beis continues the Ramah, and he says, Umikol Mokaim, nevertheless, Ein lishtois mayim min hanaharos. During Mincha and Ma'ariv Shabbos evening, you should not eat water that was drawn from the river. Okay, says the Mishnah Berurah Cut Yud Beis Hanaharos. This opinion holds this medrash that says that on account of the neshamas that are going back to Gehenim, you should not drink water during the Ben Hashmashas period between Mincha and Ma'ariv on Shabbos evening. That is only hainu dafka b'shoisim in hanaharos. That's only if you draw water out of the river and you drink water from the river. But other than that, it's okay. Like the Ramah continues on the top line here on Samach Ches Amud Aleph, Aval Babayi Shari. But to drink water that's already in the house, that's fine. That water you could drink. The Cholshken Shar Moshkin the Shari, and certainly other beverages other than water, you definitely could drink during that time period. V'yesh Omrim, then the Ramah says, there's another Yesh Omrim that says, De'ein Iser Elo Toich Shneim Aser Chaydish Al Aviv V'imoi, that this whole concept that somehow you should refrain from drinking water between Mincha and Ma'ariv on Shabbos evening, that's only when somebody is in Avelus, when somebody is in middle of the year of Avelus, in middle of the 12 months of Avelus, that one keeps on the loss of his father or mother, he can't drink water during that time period, but anybody else can. V'yesh omrim, and then there are still those that say, the Isser zeh shel shtiyas hamayim ain't a rak b'erev Shabbos, that this whole concept that you don't drink water during the Ben Hashmashos period actually is not talking about Shabbos evening at all. It's talking about Erev Shabbos. For some reason, on Erev Shabbos during Ben Hashmashos, you don't drink. Okay, now we turn to Sif Gimel. Oh, I'm sorry, we have to do Mishnah Berurah's cut in Yud Gimel. Says the Mishnah Berurah, rak be'erev Shabbos, shemefar shema de'isa b'medrash hanal b'Shabbos Ben Hashmashos. This last day, Yesh Omrim, understands the Medrash, when the Medrash says that you should not drink water on Shabbos Ben Hashmashos, hainu Ben Hashmashos, Shalel Shabbos. It means Ben Hashmashos Friday evening when Shabbos is coming in, not Ben Hashmashos Motzei Shabbos when Shabbos is going out. Okay, let's go to Sif Gimel, 4 lines down, the middle of the line in the Shulchan Aruch, says the Mechaber. Very interesting halacha. What happens if, we learned yesterday that the Zman of Shalosh Shudas begins at the time of Mincha Gedola. Mincha Gedola begins a half an hour after Chatzos. In the perfect day, 12:30. 12:30 would be Mincha Gedola. That's the earliest time period that you could have a Mincha, and that's the earliest time that you could eat Shalosh Shudas. Now let's imagine that you have a short winter Shabbos day, and davening stretched out for a while. So you davened at an 8:30 minyan, and you didn't get home until 11:30, 12, and then you had to prepare the Suda, and now you're finally sitting down to the Suda. You might start your Suda before Chatzos. You have to make Kiddush before Chatzos, but chances are that your Suda is going to extend past Mincha Gedola. So you're going to be eating the Shabbos day Suda, the second Suda of Shabbos. You're going to be holding in middle of your Shabbos day Suda when the time of Mincha Gedola rolls around, which is the time really that you could start eating Shalosh Shudas. So you're going to be eating your regular Shabbos day Suda, you're going to be in the middle of it when you come into the Shalosh Shudas time slot. That's the case that the Mechaber is going to address here. And there's a concern that the Mechaber has. The concern is like this. Let's say you started your Suda right before Chatzos, and you had a lot of company, and you prepared a lot of special dishes, and you sat around the table, and you sang Zmiris, and you had Divrei Torah, and you schmoozed, and everything else. And your Suda went from 12 o'clock to 2:45. And now it's a 2:45, and you're still sitting by your Shabbos day Suda. And Shkia is 4:30. So it's not a very long time now until Shkia. And you still need to eat Shalosh Shudas. Now, when you sit down to eat Shalosh Shudas, we want you to eat Shalosh Shudas with some minimal appetite. We definitely don't want you to sit down to Shalosh Shudas when you're just stuffed from your Shabbos day meal, and now when you sit down to eat Shalosh Shudas, it's going to be Achila Gasa. We definitely don't want that to happen. And the Mishnah Berurah is going to tell us from the Chazal a very interesting concept. And the truth is, if we think about this, I think we've all experienced this. Sometimes when you're in middle of a meal, you can overeat. While you're eating, you could eat more, you could eat more, you could eat more. When you stop eating, when you bench and you stop eating and you relax and you walk away from the middle, 10 minutes later, you're like, oh boy, I overdid it. I ate too much. And now you could see another delicious piece of cake and you're not going to eat it. Had you never interrupted your meal, had you not finished your meal yet, you would eat another piece, you would eat another piece, you would eat another piece. But once you end the meal and you walk away, then the food settles. And then 10 minutes later, 15 minutes later, you realize that you overdid it, and now you can't eat another thing. And now if you eat another morsel, that's going to be Achila Gasa. So now the concern comes like this. You stretched out your Shabbos day Suda all the way into the Zman of Shalosh Shudas. Not only that, you might have extended your Shabbos day Suda very deep into the Zman of Shalosh Shudas. What are you going to do now? If you end your meal and you clean up and everything else, and then you sit down on the couch in the living room for half an hour, and then you try to sit down to eat Shalosh Shudas, you're not going to be able to. It's going to be Achila Gasa. So what do? How could you make sure that you have a Shalosh Shudas? So the eitzah that the Mechaber is going to give is a very interesting eitzah. The Mechaber is going to say what you should do is like this. You're eating your Shabbos day Suda. You see that it's getting late. You see that you're into the Zman of Shalosh Shudas already. You know what you should do? Stop eating, bench, and then after you bench, very shortly after you bench, wash again, and now eat at least a minimal Shalosh Shudas. Because now you didn't give the food time to settle, and it's not going to be Achila Gasi yet. Now, there's a couple of chidushim involved in this, because really what the Mechaber is telling you is that you should end your Shabbos day Suda and bench, knowing full well that you're about to wash again and make another Hamoitzi and then bench again. It sounds suspiciously like the Mechaber is suggesting that you should make a bunch of barachos she'enon tzrichos, right? Why are you benching? If you're intending on continuing your meal, why are you benching now? How do you bench al das that very soon after you bench, you're going to wash again? So you're going to make a new al netilas yadayim, that's one bracha. Then you're going to make a new amoitzi, that's another bracha. And then when you finish al shudas, you're going to make a new benching, that's a third bracha. Sounds like 3 brachas she'enon tzrichos. The Mishnah Berurah is going to explain that that's not the case. Why? Because this is not a bracha she'enon tzricha. The reason you're doing what you're doing is because the halacha is demanding that you do so. Halachically, you must eat shalosh shudas. And if you don't do this eitzah of the Mechaber, then what's going to happen? You're going to keep on going with your Shabbos day Suda, you're going to finish it, and then you're going to wait a half an hour, and then you're going to try to eat shalosh shudas, and you won't be able to because it's achila gasa. So you're going to lose shalosh shudas. So the halachic requirement of eating 3 sudas on Shabbos is driving you to do this funny eitzah of the Mechabers, which is interrupt the day suda, bench, and then very quickly wash again, make a new amoitzi, and eat shalosh shudas. Now let's see all of this inside. Says the Mechaber, Siv Gimel. And now with that hakdama, I think we'll be able to read through it very quickly. Says the Mechaber, Im nimshecha sudas haboker. If the morning, the Shabbos day Suda stretched out, until you came to the Zman of Mincha Gedola. So now you're already into the Zman of Shalosh Shudas. Says the Mechaber, what should you do? Yafsik HaSuda, you should interrupt the Shabbos day Suda. V'yavarech Birkas Hamazon, bench. And then after benching, v'yital Yadav, go wash a new al netilas yadayim. Why do you have to wash a new al netilas yadayim? The reason you have to wash your new al netilas yadayim is because you just benched. And since you just benched, you were mesiach das from eating. And since you were mesiach das from eating, you're mesiach das from shmiras yadayim. You're no longer protecting your hands from becoming unclean. So you need a new netilas yadayim. So v'yital yadav, wash a new netilas yadayim, v'yavarech berachas hamoitzi, make a new bracha of hamoitzi, v'yisaid, and eat a suda now, shalosh shudas, v'nochayin adavar. And the Mechaber says that this is the proper thing to do. Why? Because if you don't do this, okay, so then what are you going to do? Instead of doing this, you're going to allow the Shabbos day Suda to continue. Eventually, you're going to end the Shabbos day Suda, and then you're going to try, like a half hour later or something like that, you're going to try to sit down and eat shalosh shudas. You're not going to be able to. It's going to be achila gasa. Since you let the Shabbos morning Suda stretch out for such a long time, you're going to end up eating an achila gasa. And you're not going to be able, even if you do eat, you're not going to be Yitzeh Shalosh Shudas, because it's going to be an achila gasa. Okay, let's take a look here at the Mishnah Berurah. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Ois Katan Yud Daled. The Yavarech Berkas Hamazon, the Kasra Achrayim, the Achrayim interject over here. And the Achrayim say, the way the Mechaber laid this out, it sounds like what the Mechaber is telling you to do is, you're sitting around your dining room table, you realize that it's late, you realize that it's already quite a while after Mincha Gedola, you're deep into the Zman of Shalosh Shudas, so what do? You say, okay, don't bring out the cholent yet, Shir Hamalas, let's sing Shir Hamalas, let's bench. Right after you finish benching, get up, go to the kitchen, wash the tilas yadayim, come back to the table and make hamoitzi. That's what it sounds like for the words of the Mechaber. The Kasva Achrayim, the Achrayim interject, and the Achrayim write, Sha'aka kach yokum v'yelech ma'at beintayim. It's not enough to just sing Shir Hamalas, bench, get up, wash, and make a new hamaitzi. No. You have to get up off the table, go for a little walk, then come back, wash the tilas yadayim, and make a new hamaitzi. Why? Because those people who stay by the dining room table, and they don't do this, they don't go walk away for a little bit, they're not going to be yotzei shalashudis. You know why? They have a kisuda achas. Says the Mishnah Berurah like this: if you just sing Shir Amalis between the first course and the cholent, you sing Shir Amalis and you bench, and then right away you get up, you go wash, you come back, you make a new hamaitzi. It's true that you ended technically the Shabbos Day Suda, and technically you began Shal Shudas, and technically you broke it into two Sudas by benching and making a new hamaitzi, but it's one Suda. You never left. You just somehow made an extra benching and an extra Netilas Yadayim and an extra hamaitzi, but it's not really two Sudas. Nobody cleaned off the table. Nobody left the table. You're bringing out the same food. It's one Suda. So you're not Yotzei Shalosh Sudas. You didn't make a third Suda. This is a continuation of the Shabbos Day Suda. So Hanishar b'Mekarmen lo Yotzei Yidei Chevasan dehevi kisuda akas. So you must make an interruption. Okay. The Kasav of Beis Yosef, the Beis Yosef writes, "The lo yidreish barabim laseis kein lahafsik sudasa." You should not paskin barabim. You should not give a drasha barabim teaching this halacha to the tzibur, this idea of interrupting the Suda. Why? Would you be allowed to do this before Chatzos? In other words, let's say you came home from shul at 10 o'clock, and you sat down right away to your Shabbos Day Suda, and by 10:45, you're holding between the first course and the cholent. And somehow somebody comes up with the idea, let's sing Shir Amalis bench, let's wash again, eat more challah, and then go on to the cholent. Would you be allowed to do that? Absolutely not. Why? Because what are you doing it for? It's a bracha sheidet tzricha. You're not gaining shalosh shudas. It's not mincha gedola yet. You can't eat shalosh shudas before mincha gedola. It's 11 o'clock in the morning. So you're doing this for no reason whatsoever. So then, the benching, the netilas yadayim, the new hamaitzi, you're making a bracha sheidet tzricha. You're not allowed to do that. So you would not be allowed to do this before Chatzos. Since you're not allowed to do this before Chatzos, says the Beis Yosef, don't push this halacha, that people should interrupt their Suda after Mincha Gedola, they should bench and then wash again. They're going to end up doing it before Chatzos, and that would be awesome. And Ein HaKol B'kiyad Bazeh. Now let's go to Ois Katan Tesvav, very important. El Achila Gasa. The whole reason the Mechaber told you to do this Eitzah is because he's afraid that what's going to happen is you're going to try to sit down to eat shalosh shudas and you're not going to be able to because you're stuffed and it's going to end up being an achila gasa. Explains the Mishnah Berurah what I told you earlier. Says Chavetz Chaim, Ki kol zman ha'achila, while you're sitting by the table and you're in the middle of eating, ha'itstoimcha psucha, your stomach remains open. You could actually see the word stomach in this ha'itstoimcha, right? If you take the tzadi, the tes, the vav, the mem, and the chaf, you have stomach. So it's tmoicha is the stomach. Says the Chavetz Chaim, Ki kol zman ha'achila, while you're eating, it's tmoicha psucha. The stomach remains open, and you can eat another piece of food. You can eat another piece of food. Mashe ein kein achar suda. But when you finish the suda and you walk away, now the food settles down, and that's when you start feeling overstuffed and you can't eat anymore. So again, the concern of the Mechaber is you're eating your Shabbos Day Suda, you extended it deep into the Zman of Shalosh Shudas after Mincha Gedola. If we just let you end the Shabbos Day Suda and then come back a half an hour later to try to eat Shalosh Shudas, you're not going to eat Shalosh Shudas. It's going to be Achila Gasa. So what's the Eitzah? The Eitzah is make a short interruption in the Shabbos Day Suda. Sing Shir Amalis, bench, get up, step outside for a minute, walk up and down the block, then come back in, wash, make a new hamaitzi, and now eat Shalosh Shudas. Now the interruption between the Shabbos Day Suda and the Shalosh Shudas was so short, the food's not going to have a chance to settle, and you're not going to get that overstuffed feeling so that you can't eat. Now the Mishnah Berurah mentioned something very important that I mentioned earlier. How do you do this eitz of the Mechabers? Why isn't this called requiring extra brachas? A bracha she'ein tzricha, which we always say it's aser. He explains the Mishnah Berurah. We're not worried that by following the eitz of the Mechaber, you're actually making a bracha she'ein tzricha. Why? Because it's halacha that's making you do this. You're being driven to do this in order to be mekayim the halacha and the chiyuv of shalosh hudas. So that makes it not a bracha she'ein tzricha. V'zeh ma shemasik Ramah, and this is why the Ramah concludes, I'll read it inside in a minute, Aval misha yodea, kedei lotes mechshash bracha she'ein tzricha. Let's take a look here at the Ramah and we'll understand what the Mishnah Berurah just said. If you take a look at the Ramah in middle of the line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines from the top, the Ramah's reaction to the Mechaber is as follows. Hago. Aval misha yodea she'efshel lechal achar sheyispal mincha im hatzibur. Let's say you're in the very situation described by the Mechaber. So you finished your day Suda at 2:30 in the afternoon, and Shkia is 4:30. So you only have 2 hours left in order to eat shalosh hudas. But you know that you finished at 2:30. You're going to walk over to the 2:45 mincha minyan in shul. You're going to daven mincha at 2:45. You're going to get home at 3:30. You'll catnap on the couch from 3:30 to 4. And at 4:15, you'll sit down and you'll eat shalosh hudas. And you'll be able to eat shalosh hudas. It's late enough after the Shabbos Day Suda that you're going to be able to sit down and eat a menschlich shalosh hudas. You're not going to eat a huge shalosh hudas. You're going to have challah, you have a little herring, maybe a piece of gefilte fish, and a little fruit, maybe a coffee, and zahu. That's going to be your shalosh hudas. But that's okay. You ate yoyser mikabeisa shal pas. You had enough to be yoyser shalosh hudas, and you had some fish. That's enough for a shalosh hudas. If you know you could do that, says the Ramah, aval misha yedei she'efshel lechal achar sheyispal mincha matzibur lo yaseh suda shlishis kaida mincha. Don't do the Mechaber shtick. Don't break the Shabbos Day Suda before mincha and interrupt it with benching and then wash again and make a quick shalosh hudas at the end of the Shabbos Day Suda. Don't do that. And the Mishnah Berurah just told us, you know why the Ramah says that? Because the Ramah says it's too dangerously close to bracha she'ein tzricha for comfort. Miu emasa yotza. But if you do what the Mechaber described, you are, of course, yotza. Says the Mishnah Berurah Tezayin, Aval misha yedea, somebody who knows, what does that mean? Shamishar benafshay, he analyzes and he takes a look at himself and he's mishayer. He concludes that he'll be able to eat shalosh hudas without it being achilagasa. It's better to do it that way. He's going to eat his shalosh hudas after davening mincha in shul b'tzibur. Says the Mishnah Berurah, you could do this even if Yom Tov is on Motzei Shabbos, so that Shabbos is Erev Yom Tov. What the Mishnah Berurah is telling you over here is this is a problem that often comes up. We learned earlier that you're not allowed to eat a big Suda on Erev Shabbos. So Erev Shabbos, you're not allowed to sit down and eat a bigger lunch than you would normally eat during the week. Why not? Because we want to know that you're going to come to the Friday night Shabbos Suda with an appetite. That's Einik Shabbos, and that's Kavod Shabbos. You should sit down to the Suda coming in ready to enjoy a Geshmak Suda with an appetite. If you eat a huge lunch Friday afternoon, you're not going to sit down Friday night to the Suda with an appetite. The same halacha applies on Yom Tov. Erev Yom Tov also. You're not allowed to eat an extra large Suda on Erev Yom Tov, so that you should sit down to the Suda Yom Tov night with an appetite. Now what happens if Shabbos is Erev Yom Tov? We're discussing over here, the Ramah just told me that you could eat shalosh hudas after mincha. Don't worry, you don't have to break your Shabbos Day Suda in two in order to make an ad hoc shalosh hudas at the end of your Shabbos Day Suda. No, finish your Shabbos Day Suda, go, daven mincha, come back, dribble on the couch a little bit, and then go wash and eat shalosh hudas. Says the Mishnah Berurah, you could do this. You could eat shalosh hudas near the end of the day on Shabbos, even if Motzei Shabbos is Yom Tov. Now that's a chiddush, because we don't eat a Suda Erev Yom Tov. You're eating shalosh hudas on Erev Yom Tov. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Va'afilu l'chal Yom Tov b'maitzai Shabbos she'ef shaloi lechal suda shlishis b'soif hayom kanog. Even though to go eat shalashudas at the end of the day on Shabbos, if Shabbos is Erev Yom Tov, is problematic because you're eating a significant suda on Erev Yom Tov. Shaharei roi loy lihimana melekbaya az suda be'erev Yom Tov kamay be'erev Shabbos. Really, you should refrain from eating a suda, especially late in the day on Erev Yom Tov, the same way you don't do it on Erev Shabbos. Nevertheless, says the Chavetz Chaim, Im yeder sheyuchalos lechal al kol panim kisher beitza v'yoser v'chanal b'sif aleph. If you know that you're going to sit down late in the day, Shabbos afternoon, and you're going to eat a basic shalashudas, yoser mikabeitza. You're going to eat bread a little bit more than the volume of an egg. So lo yichalik suda shachris l'shtayim. It's still better to do that than to interrupt the Shabbos day suda and to try to break it into two. The hayesh oimim da'asalasis came mishum bracha shenet tzricha. Kasav Magen Avraham Hashem Sefer Chasidim. The Magen Avraham says in the name of the Sefer Chasidim, Mi sheyesh lo mazayin shtei seudais mitzum tzamos. If somebody is going through a very hard time financially, and he has exactly enough money for food for 2 seudos, he doesn't have for 3. Vim yechalkem l'shalosh seudos, and if he tries to stretch that money to cover 3 seudos, lo yeh lo kol seuda l'sava, then each seuda of the 3 seudos is going to be skimpy, and he's never going to be satisfied. So again, he has enough money to make 2 basic seudos. If he tries to stretch that money to cover 3 seudos, then each one of the 3 seudos is going to be very skimpy, and he's not going to be full and satisfied after eating the first seudah. He's not going to be full and satisfied after eating the second seudah. He's not going to be full and satisfied after eating shalosh seudos. So the whole Shabbos long, he's never going to be full and satisfied. What should he do? Says the Mishnah Berurah, Mutiv sheyuchal shtei seudos l'sava. It would be better that he should only eat a Friday night seudah and a Shabbos day seudah and not have shalosh seudos. But at least Friday night and Shabbos by day, he'll be satisfied. Nevertheless, but if the day Suda now stretches out past Chatzos, he should interrupt it into 2, following the eights of the Mechaber. Because now he's actually going to be satisfied. In other words, what the Mishnah Berurah is saying is like this. This fellow really only has enough money to cover 2 sudas. So he's going to eat a very basic suda Friday night, but he'll be satisfied. Then he's going to eat Shabbos day, and he has enough food that for the Shabbos day suda, he'll also be satisfied. Now he can't make a shalosh seudos. Says the Mishnah Berurah, you know what he should do? He should stretch out the Shabbos day suda so that it continues into the Siman of Mincha Gedolah. But he should follow the Mechaber's Eitzah, and he should bench in the middle, wash again, make a new Hamoitzi. So that what he's doing is, he's taking the Shabbos day Suda, and he's breaking it into 2 Sudas. Now you'll say, but how does that work? He's not going to be satisfied from the first half of the Suda. He's not going to be satisfied from the second half of the Suda. No, we don't look at it that way. Between the 2 Sudas, he's going to be satisfied. That's called he was satisfied for the Shabbos day Suda and for the Shalosh Seudah Suda. But, says the Chavetz Chaim, don't be a wise guy and push off starting your Shabbos day Suda until after Chatzos in order to accomplish this, because remember, we said that you have to start eating before Chatzos. You're not allowed to fast until after Chatzos. Okay, Siv Dalet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines off the bottom near the end of the line in the Shulchan Aruch says the Mechaber. Ein tzarich lekadesh b'seudah shlishis. You don't have to make kiddush by shalosh seudos. Now, what does that mean? Remember, the basic Shabbos day kiddush is you take a cup of wine, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, bari pri hagafen. That's kiddush, Shabbos by day. So when the Mechaber tells me that you don't have to make kiddush by shalosh seudos, what that means is you don't have to begin your shalosh seudos by taking a cup of wine and making a bari pri hagafen. There's no need for kiddush by shalosh seudos. Ein tzarich lekadesh b'seudah shlishis. Aval, however, continues the Mechaber, tzarich livtzaya al shtei kikaros. But you do need lechem mishnah for shalosh seudos. Okay, let's take a look here at the Mishnah Berurah. Mishnah Berurah is cut yuches. Ein tzarich lekadesh. You're not required to make kiddush for Shalosh Shudas. Dahainu, what does this mean? Levarach al yayin kaidem asuda. You don't have to make a bari priya gafen on a case of yayin before, at the beginning of Shalosh Shudas. Why not? The iskish yom l'layla le'inyan kiddush. Because when it comes to the halacha of kiddush, we look at the pasuk and we see a comparison in the pasuk where the pasuk compares Shabbos day to Friday night. Ma layla sagi b'chad zimna. Just like Friday night, you only have one kiddush. There's only one suda Friday night. So there's one kiddush Friday night. Af biyoin, so too by day. Kishetiktu chachamim lekadesh, when the chachamim made a takana, and then were masakin the din of kiddush Shabbos by day. Remember, kiddush by day is only din d'Rabbanan. Saginami b'chazim nababoiker. It only gets one kiddush. I said that it's in the pasuk. I don't see over here that the Mishnah Berurah is quoting the pasuk. He says iskish. We compare the halacha of kiddush Shabbos by day to the halacha of kiddush Friday night. Friday night there's only one kiddush. So Shabbos by day, there's also only one kiddush, only by the Shabbos day suda, not by Shalosh Shudas. Aval, however, continues the Mishnah Berurah, shtei kikarais tzarich, but lechem Mishnah you do need. Why? The chol suda she'adam sayid b'yom HaShabbos shavos. All of the sudas that you eat on Shabbos, they all have to be the same. Okay, so since Friday night gets lechem Mishnah, Shabbos day gets lechem Mishnah, Shalosh Shudas also gets lechem Mishnah. Now, just checking later on, I don't, the Mishnah Berurah is going to tell us, okay, I think we're going to see later on in the Mishnah Berurah. The Mishnah Berurah didn't really explain over here, right? He's just telling us, why do you need lechem Mishnah by Shalosh Shudas? Because all of the sudas of Shabbos are the same. Friday night gets lechem Mishnah. Shabbos day gets lechem Mishnah. So Shalosh Shudas also gets lechem Mishnah. Why? And they're not really the same. Friday night gets kiddush. Shabbos day gets kiddush. Shalosh Shudas doesn't get kiddush. So they're not really the same. So why does Shalosh Shudas need lechem Mishnah just like the other sudas? I think we'll see more on that a little bit later as we go weiter. Let's go weiter first. Let's take a look here at the Ramah. Says the Ramah, Hagah. This is a halacha that a lot of people are not aware of. So you have you're mechuyev to make three sudas on Shabbos. You have a Friday night suda, a Shabbos day suda, and Shalosh Shudas. Okay, very nice. Let's say it's a summer Shabbos. You have a very, very long Shabbos afternoon. Okay, so in the morning you had your Shabbos day suda. All right, then you came home from Mincha. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so it's already after Mincha Gedolah. It's already the Zman of Shalosh Shudas, and you say, you know what, I'm hungry. I'm going to make myself a deli sandwich. Oh, so that means you're going to wash. All right, so go get lechem Mishnah. All right, you'll get lechem Mishnah, you'll wash, you'll eat your deli sandwich. That's going to become Shalosh Shudas. That's your third Suda that you're eating, and you're eating it after Mincha Gedolah. So fine, so that's Shalosh Shudas. All right, now 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you're hungry again, and you want to have another deli sandwich. So now you say to yourself, oh, I don't need lechem Mishnah. I already was Yotzei Shalosh Shudas. I had my Friday night Suda. I had my Shabbos day Suda. I had a deli sandwich at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That was Shalosh Shudas. By all of those Sudas, I had lechem Mishnah. Now I want to have a late afternoon snack. I want to wash and have another deli sandwich. Why do I need lechem Mishnah? No, the halach is you do. Says the Ramah, you would need lechem Mishnah every time you sit down to wash and have a Suda on Shabbos, even if you make 7 Sudas on Shabbos. Every time you sit down to make a Suda on Shabbos, you need lechem Mishnah. That's what the Ramah says here. The Ramah says here, V'em sayid harbe pa'amim b'Shabbos, if you make a lot of Sudas on Shabbos, tzarich l'chol Suda shtei kikarais. Every one of those Sudas needs lechem Mishnah. And he brings this down from the Avodram. Now the Ramah says, Ula pachus, and at least, certainly for Shalosh Shudas, again, me'ikar adin, you need lechem Mishnah. But if you didn't have lechem Mishnah, you certainly have to have at least one challah, at least one shalim, at least one bread that's fully intact. That you have to have. Ulapachas la'yelai besuda shlishis pachas mikikar echad shalim. Umizeh pashat aminig, and from this the minig has come lahakel, to be makel. In other words, but the Ramah is saying like this. I told you that me'ikar adin, the Mechaber told us, me'ikar adin, you need lechem Mishnah for Shalosh Shudas. The same way you need Lechem Mishnah Friday night and Shabbos day. The Ramah said, at least, if you don't have Lechem Mishnah for Shalosh Shudas, you at least have to have one shalem, one complete loaf. Now, says the Ramah, from that halacha, that the minimum requirement for Shalosh Shudas is one shalem, from this came a minig that many people are makel, where they go ahead and they use by Shalosh Shudas only one shalem. But the Ramah does not like it. The Ramah says that lechatchila, you're supposed to have Lechem Mishnah, like the Mechaber said. You're supposed to have two chalas, Lechem Mishnah, for Shalosh Shudas. Says the Mishnah Berurah. Ois cut in your test. You cannot have pachas mikikar echad. The minimal requirement for Shalosh Shudas is at least one complete loaf, one shalem. Now, where does that come from? So the Mishnah Berurah explains. The biyom shishi yarad hamon lachol echad shnei amorim. We know that when the mon fell in the midbar, it was an omer lagolgolis. You got one measure of mon. That amount was an omer. An omer is a volume measurement. Each person in the midbar got an omer of mon every day. But on Friday, each person got 2 amorim. Because on Friday, you got a double portion. You got a portion for Friday and a portion for Shabbos. Now, what did they do with those portions? Says the Mishnah Berurah like this. On Erev Shabbos, each individual got 2 amorim of mon. Umikol omer asu shtei kikaros. Each omer makes 2 loaves of bread. Or whatever it is. I don't know. It's not bread. You can make 2 loaves, whatever that means, out of an omer of mon. Umikol omer asu shtei kikaros. Hare arba lishnei amorim. So that means, again, each individual on Friday got 2 amorim of mon. Those 2 amorim of mon were capable of making 4 loaves. So you started off on Friday with 4 loaves. 2 loaves that were made out of Friday's omer of mon, and 2 loaves that were made out of Shabbos' omer of mon. Okay, now what did you do with these loaves? Achal echad be'erev Shabbos. 1 loaf you used for breakfast Friday morning. Ve'echad beleil Shabbos. The next loaf you used for the Friday night Suda. Ve'echad baboker. And then you took the 3rd loaf and you used it for the Shabbos morning Suda. Hare nishaloi rak echad shalom l'Suda shlishis. So what do you have for Shalosh Shudas? You have 1 loaf left. So this is where the concept comes that at the minimal requirement for Shalosh Shudas is 1 complete loaf. Because back in the days of the mon, l'chayra, that's what you were left with. When you sat down to eat your Friday Suda, you still had 3 loaves, right? Because again, let's make the cheshbon. Friday, you got 2 amorim. 2 amorim made 4 loaves. You ate 1 loaf for breakfast Friday morning. When you sit down to the Friday night Shabbos Suda, you've got 3 loaves. So you have Lechem Mishnah, right? You have 3, not 2, you have 3. Now you eat 1. Now when you sit down tomorrow morning, Shabbos morning for the Shabbos day Suda, how many loaves do you have? 2, right? Because that's what's left, 2. So Lechem Mishnah, you make your Hamoitzi and you eat 1. Now when you sit down to Shalosh Shudas, what do you have left? You only have 1 left. So you don't have Lechem Mishnah anymore, but you have 1 shalem. So the minimal requirement for Shalosh Shudas is 1 shalem. It has to be a shalem. What do you do if when you sit down to Shalosh Shudas, you don't have a shalem? No, if you don't have a shalem, you only have a piece. If it's a piece of bread that's a drop bigger than a beitza, a drop greater in volume than a beitza, you're okay, b'di'evet. You're not accomplishing Lechem Mishnah, and you don't even have 1 shalem, mitzvah suda miyakiyim. But if you have pas, that's slightly more than the volume of a kibetza, so you'll be yoytze yechiv of Shalosh Shudas. Eyes cut and chaf aleph. The Ramah said, but you should be machmer to use 2 loaves like a Mishnah. V'chein roi linag lechatchila ki asfar harishona here ikar. V'toiv lahadol avarach ala yayin toich suda. The Mishnah Berurah actually says that by Shalosh Shudas, he brings this down. He says that you should do this in order to be mekayim the opinion of the Rambam. that by Shalosh Shudas you should have at least, even though you don't have to make Kiddush, so you don't have to start Shalosh Shudas with a Bari Pri HaGofen on a kais of Yayin, but you should be mahadir to at least have Yayin in middle of the Shalosh Shudas Suda. Okay, now let's say you have Lechem Mishnah, but you don't have enough Lechem Mishnah to keep enough challah to give everybody around the table their own Lechem Mishnah, which is quite common. So what you should do is everybody should wash, and the balabayas will take the Lechem Mishnah, make the hamoitzi, and be moitzi everybody with his hamoitzi. And he should be moitzi everybody. He should let them know that he's being moitzi them. They should have kavanah to be yotze with his bracha. And since he is going to make the hamoitzi on Lechem Mishnah, he's going to be moitzi everybody, not only in the bracha of hamoitzi, but also in the inyan of Lechem Mishnah. Okay, we're going to stop over here. We'll continue next time. Miras Hashem with Sif Hey. Thank you so much for joining me for limud HaTorah. Discuss of limud HaTorah should be megan against Klal Yisrael. Rabbi Hashem should send Yeshua and first parnasset sheduchim to all those in need. We should be zeichet to see the Bias Gael Tzedek, the Meher of the Amenu. Amen. Be well.